Who spends 5 years trying to fix a vacuum cleaner? James Dyson did, not just because he wanted to build a better appliance, but because he refused to accept that something so ordinary had to work so badly. For decades, people accepted the same frustrating problem. The fuller the dust bag became, the weaker the suction. Everyone assumed that was simply how vacuum cleaners worked. James Dyson didn't, so he kept building. Prototype after prototype. Most of them failed. In fact, he failed 5,126 times before finally getting it right. Yes, you heard that correctly. 5,126 failed attempts before he got it right. That final prototype would go on to change an entire industry. But this isn't really a story about vacuum cleaners. It's about something far more important. How do you keep believing in yourself after failing 5,126 times? How do you keep trying? Like millions of people, James Dyson owned a vacuum cleaner. At the time, almost every vacuum cleaner worked in exactly the same way. Dust and dirt were collected inside a disposable paper bag. It seemed like a simple and effective design, but it had one frustrating flaw. As the bag filled with dust, tiny pores in the paper gradually became blocked. Airflow was restricted, and the vacuum slowly lost its suction. Most people assumed that was simply how vacuum cleaners worked. James Dyson didn't. He became convinced there had to be a better way. Then one day, while visiting a sawmill, he noticed something unusual. A giant industrial machine was using cyclonic force to separate fine particles from the air, without relying on a bag. It was a simple idea. The spinning air flung dust to the outer walls, where it fell away, while clean air escaped through the center. James Dyson couldn't stop thinking about it. If it worked in a factory, why couldn't it work inside a vacuum cleaner? Most people would have forgotten the idea by the next morning. James Dyson couldn't. Back in his workshop, he set himself a challenge: build a vacuum cleaner that used a cyclone instead of a bag. His first attempt didn't work. Neither did the second or the third. But every failure taught him something the previous one hadn't. James Dyson wasn't trying to prove he was right. He was trying to understand why he was wrong. That mindset didn't come from nowhere. Long before he became famous, Dyson had trained as a designer, not an engineer. He believed that every product, no matter how ordinary, could be redesigned, improved, and reimagined. He had already invented the Ballbarrow, replacing the traditional wheel with a rolling ball that moved effortlessly across rough ground. Most inventors stop after one success. James Dyson was only getting started. The idea was simple, but making it work was far from easy. So James Dyson kept building prototype after prototype. Each one failed, but each one taught him something. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. His workshop filled with discarded designs, each one slightly different from the last. A wider chamber, a narrower cone, a steeper angle, a smaller opening. Every change was another experiment. Every failure was another lesson. Friends wondered why he didn't just move on. After all, thousands of failed attempts had to mean the idea was impossible. But Dyson saw those failures differently. Each prototype eliminated one more wrong answer. Each mistake brought him one step closer to the right one.
Why don't you just give it up? Because every failure teaches me something.
By the end of the journey, he had built 5,127 prototypes. Most people remember the final one. James Dyson learned from the first 5,126. After 5 years of work, James Dyson finally had something that worked. A vacuum cleaner that didn't lose suction. You might think the hardest part was over. It wasn't. Confident that manufacturers would see its potential, Dyson took his invention to the biggest vacuum cleaner companies, one after another. They said no. Some dismissed it as unnecessary. Others worried it would hurt their business. After all, if customers no longer needed to replace vacuum bags, they would lose a profitable source of income. The rejection wasn't because the invention didn't work. It was because it threatened an entire business model. Years of effort, thousands of prototypes, and still, no one was willing to take the risk. For many people, that would have been the end of the story. For James Dyson, it was only another obstacle to overcome. Just when it seemed that every door had closed, one unexpectedly opened. Not in Britain, not in Europe, but in Japan. A Japanese company saw what everyone else had overlooked. They licensed Dyson's cyclone technology for a new vacuum cleaner. For the first time, someone believed in the idea. The agreement gave James Dyson something he hadn't had in years. Proof. Proof that his invention wasn't a fantasy. Proof that all those years of persistence had meant something. The royalties from that deal gave him the resources to dream even bigger. Instead of waiting for someone else to build the vacuum cleaner he imagined, he decided to build it himself. In 1993, Dyson launched his own company. His first bagless vacuum cleaner entered the market. The same manufacturers who had rejected the idea now had a formidable new competitor. The invention they refused to back was about to transform the entire industry. Today, Dyson is one of the world's most respected engineering companies. Its products are sold in more than 80 countries. The bagless vacuum cleaner changed an industry that had remained largely unchanged for decades. But perhaps James Dyson's greatest invention wasn't a vacuum cleaner. It was a different way of thinking. A willingness to question what everyone else accepted. To keep going when failure seemed inevitable. To see every setback as another lesson. People often celebrate the final success, the finished product, the company, the fortune. But those achievements were built on something far less glamorous. 5,126 failures. So, how do you keep believing in yourself after failing 5,126 times? You don't believe in the failures. You believe in the next attempt. You have to accept that success is a journey of failures, not a destination. That, my friends, is the story of James Dyson.